Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Double Take with the Safety Brothers. My name's Alex Safety. I am here with my brother, John, not Jonathan, Johnny Boy. What is crack-a-lackin' Johnny Rockets?
We're doing well over here. You know, we might not do a little heat wave part of this show, but right now the Heat are on the downtrend. But it's all good. Victor Oladipo's going to come in and be that Superman. But we're doing all right. The weather's looking good out here in Boston.
Spring is coming.
Summer's just around the corner.
Almost April, so lots of good vibes to come. Of course, we are hoping that for our Miami Heat, but we won't be talking about them too much today. Today, we are going to be talking about the NBA buyout market, the players that have been picked up off out of free agency after the trade deadline, and then we will touch on some March Madness. Oh, and also NBA officiating. Then we're going to touch on March Madness, how our brackets are doing, and of course the Dolphins Blockbuster trade and some of our thoughts about that. But first off, John, we have to start off with the story that made the most headlines over the weekend. And as soon as I got this notification on my phone, I was pretty shook. There was a lot of emotions attached to it, and it was that LaMarcus Aldridge has signed with the Brooklyn Nets. And my immediate reaction, John, was, wow, the Heat didn't get him. Everyone said he's going to the Heat, he's going to Miami.
The Heat thought they were getting him.
The Heat thought they were getting him.
Clearly, because they don't have really a backup plan for a big man right now.
Exactly. I saw reporters saying that for a month, LaMarcus had been saying he's going to Miami. And then this happens. Where does he go? The last team we'd want him to go. So, John, what's going on? What happened?
Yeah, so I'll say this. When I got it, I think a lot of times, Alex, when we're talking about this, we balance each other out. So, Alex, you were immediately outraged. And I think I balanced that off. And I was like, listen, it's not going to change. This is not moving the needle in a huge way. Like, the Nets, they already were filthy with, the three dudes that they have. That we had three top 10 guys, amazing scorers, offensive players, with the, Blake and DeAndre and Claxton catching lobs and Joe Harris and Bruce Brown being glue guys, and they were already great. Adding this to me is like, it does like it. They were already at like a 100 out of 100. Like now, how much better offense can it be?
I said that before they got Harden. I was like, they're already filthy on offense.
No, yeah,
but clearly I was wrong about that.
Yeah, Harden of course took them from a 90 to like a 99. Blake Griffin and Nick Claxton being better, and Joe Harris and Bruce Brown. That's like gets them to 100. And now we're talking about adding LMA, who to be honest is, I don't want to call him washed, but he's 35 years old. Okay, he got drafted in like 2006, so he has not been he's not been all that. He was an All-Star in 2019, which was only 2 seasons ago. However, at the same time, for this type of team, he's not doing much else other than taking LaMarcus Aldridge away from other potential teams like the Lakers or the Heat, for example, who the Nets knew they were going to see in the playoffs. So to me, I always want to look at it as it creates this more like lopsided like talent dispersion. Like LMA would have been more valuable to the Miami Heat than he would have been to the Brooklyn Nets. However, he's like, yo, let me like ride this wave. I'll play 15 minutes a game. I'll like hit a few turnaround jump shots, on the baseline, and grab a couple of rebounds, and then I'll win a ring. Like that's what he's clearly doing here. And I think when you look at Kevin Durant, like I'm immediately thinking about Kevin Durant. And look at who he's played with. Okay, let's throw out Oklahoma City because that was like they were all drafted there. But still, he played with Westbrook and MVP and Harden and MVP. Now he's won 2 rings. He won 2 rings with a 2-time MVP, Steph Curry.
The only unanimous MVP ever, Steph Curry.
An all-time great 3-point shooter, great. He's an all-star. He's an Olympian. Klay Thompson. Defensive Player of the Year, Draymond Green. And another all-time example of what a glue guy looks like. A Finals MVP in Andre Iguodala, who, like, obviously we don't necessarily... he's not as great. He's probably the worst Finals MVP ever, but he's still a Finals MVP. And now his next team that he goes to, you got 2 top 10 guys, and one of them's an MVP, and James Harden.
And the MVP candidate this year.
Yeah, he's an MVP candidate this year. Exactly. And Kyrie Irving, another top 10 guy, who
you could argue
one of the probably greatest handles ever. Right?
He probably has the greatest handles ever, and you could argue just... purely one of the most skilled, talented players ever. Like top 15 of all time.
100% offensively. And then now you got the Twilight Lob City front court, who, I mean, I'm saying Twilight because they're past their primes, but they're only 32 years old. It's not like they're crazy. It's not like they're 35, in Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan. And I'm not even mentioning, all the other role guys they have, Claxton and Joe Harris and Bruce Brown.
Well, I think those three guys are more valuable than Blake, DeAndre, and LaMarcus.
But now you add a 7-time All-Star big man in LMA, LaMarcus Aldridge. So what does this mean? I think, well, we saw what it meant. Look what happened on Twitter. People are calling Kevin Durant out on Twitter saying, hey, you can't win by yourself. And he's getting chirped, of course.
This is why
and
he
has to respond
anymore. And he responds to all these random bums.
He has to respond to dudes that are getting
funny.
These guys are getting 8 retweets, and that's probably because Durant commented on them. These guys,
bro, are you kidding? These guys probably if I tweeted and Durant commented on me.
Honestly, I would say your Twitter probably has more following than some of these guys. Okay, Big Poseidon. That's who Durant. That's the Twitter name at Chosen One of One. Who are some else? Just random guys at King Ravi 101. That's who Durant is responding to. Okay, so just random unverified guys. Durant's responding to them and saying, so for example, this is why I don't watch the NBA no more. The Warriors ruined it. Now the Nets make it worse. They both got one coming denominator. Kevin at KD Trey 5. So cursing at Durant, and Durant says, I see you took all this personally. LMAO. And then, so now another guy, King Ravi 101, responds, I see you really can't lead a team on your own. And Durant responds, I'll never be able to do anything that I really want to do on earth,
John,
by myself.
That tweet with the most is the one that it stuck with me, because then I ended up posting on my Instagram a tweet that Durant sent in probably 2012 or 2011.
I think it was 10 when LeBron signed with the Heat.
I think it might have been
It was after that.
10. Okay, so it was the tweet is essentially, why does everyone want to sign with Miami or LA? What happened to to trying to go at these dudes?
That tweet has been brought up multiple times since Durant joined the Warriors, of course.
But I think it's just even funnier now because the funniest tweets to me were the ones that are comparing it to he's assembling the Avengers or in the Justice League, just to be. And I love the ones that's all this just to lose to this, and it was KZ Okpala, all this just to try to have a chance against a 36-year-old LeBron James.
But that's truly it. I mean, and this is going to be brought up, and LeBron's 30 for 30 in his last dance. They're going to talk about this, how everyone because they're going to, of course, romanticize this era. This is going to be 10, 20, 30 years from now. We're going to be looking back on LeBron, and we're going to remove all his flaws the same way we do with Magic and Larry and Mike and MJ.
Mostly just MJ.
So, that's what happens. So in 20, 30 years from now, when our generation is the one making those documentaries, they're going to say, look at what all these other teams have to do. Look what Kevin Durant did. He had to stack the deck against LeBron. But so moving away from LeBron's legacy, talking about Kevin Durant's legacy, Alex, when I look at him, and when there's people that, for example, Eli, who's been on the show a few times, he genuinely believes that Durant is a top 5 player. And now our definition's a little different.
I pushed him on it. I think he went down to 7. Okay, top 7. But
he's
not still ridiculous. I think.
But he's not top to me. Oh, you're saying in the league, or I'm saying ever?
No, ever. That's what Eli says. He's he'll say 5 to 7.
But to me, it's not about legacy, whatever. It's just talent. So he's a top 5 talented player ever. Right?
Yes, that's the funny thing, because I said that about Kyrie's probably top 10 or 15 talented player ever.
But I'm just talking about more Durant and his size and potential coming into the league, right? He could have been up there with LeBron and Jordan and Magic and Bird. And instead, to me, his legacy is going to take such a massive hit, because you know what? If you have 4 championships and you both of them you're playing with MVPs, and then your third guy was also Klay Thompson or Kyrie Irving, and your fourth guy was Draymond Green and Blake Griffin, those are the teams you're playing on. I'm sorry, dude, you're not going to be up there in the pantheon.
It's what frustrates me the most of when people defend KD and they're for example, having these conversations with Eli, he's like, why, he will say that it's my emotions, or that it's about the narrative. I'm like, dude, I'm not talking about the narrative. It matters what was on the court when you won your championships.
Context.
Not all rings are created equal. We know this. Dirk's one ring with the Mavericks, I think, is way more impressive
Chauncey Billups
than Durant's 2. I mean, I don't know if
Chauncey Billups again.
No,
against Kobe and Shaq. You know what I mean? Just being a part of that team. If Kevin Durant was on that team taking down a Kobe and Shaq on his, you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying.
Well, and that's why I think you come back the next year or that year with OKC. If him and Russ they win Game 6, or Klay Thompson doesn't go off, or they pull it away in Game 7, they go and they beat LeBron. That ring would have been way more impressive than any ring that KD's gonna have ever. And to me, the reason that taints his legacy is because guess what? I don't know if Durant would have been able to lead a team the way I've seen LeBron lead one or MJ lead one or insert other guy. Or even at this point, like, I will say, like, if Giannis gets a ring, I'm going to be more impressed with Giannis' ring than KD's.
Yeah.
And even, I did say this. I said, after he left Golden State, I said, if he wins one in Brooklyn, I'll be very impressed.
Yeah.
And then what happens? They go in and get Harden. And Harden, right now, I said this as soon as they got him. I was like, he's the most valuable player on that team. And now he's one of the most valuable players in the league, and he might win it. And, you know, of course, that being said, with Durant, you know, not playing. I don't even know how many games he missed at this point. 15, 20, whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, Durant hasn't been in the lineup. And so, yeah, it's ridiculous. I do agree with you, though, John. LaMarcus Aldridge, that's not a huge deal. I know. And
it just adds to this narrative.
The funniest thing for me was just looking at, like, Heat Twitter, and it was like, we're getting LaMarcus. He signs in Brooklyn. Then it was like, you know, Gorgie Jang was the better fit anyways. As soon as he signs with San Antonio, I was like, Dwayne Dedmon, like, are you out there?
Dwayne Dedmon looks
Boogie
like
Cousins, are we going to sign him?
Right.
So he Twitter, and I love how we have that quick turnaround of, like, jumping on to the next thing.
Yeah,
but
and
it was really funny.
Before Alex, we move completely on from the Durant thing, I just want to, like, close out with a couple of his last two tweets, because I just think it's just funny. I want to have it on this episode. So, another random guy, nephew of the king, who tweeted, also, why at KD Trey 5 always gotta come to Twitter after every move he make me feel like he insecure about the moves he makes. If you gonna get 5 all-stars that can make the finals without you, then do it. Stop making moves, then come to Twitter for validation. So, like, just classic, like this is, I think this is the sentiment that we're all feeling.
Let me read
Durant's
this response.
insecure. All right, go, yeah, Alex, you're Durant. Read the response.
Because I knew y'all would be on here crying, and I smell blood in the water, so I'm here to fulfill the prophecy, LMAO.
What does that even mean?
That actually, I hate Durant, and I honestly hate his Twitter presence, but that tweet is so good. I'm sorry.
It's just so weird. And then Haley O'Shaughnessy, so she used to work for The Ringer. Now she's at Blue Wire?
She's at Blue Wire.
She's at Blue Wire now. She retweeted that one from Durant and said, this is why he should have embraced the Slim Reaper nickname. And Durant just, like, still seeming like so, like, weird and crazy. His response, now he responds to her, my OG back when I was 4 told me to never go by a nickname. Like, what? What are you doing? Like, I just don't understand what he's talking about.
He is so weird. And I actually, I don't know. I guess the LaMarcus thing, you know, I think it's good because, like, it's gonna hopefully make even clearer the narrative and, like, the way I
expose
believe
him.
The way I expose him, like, what I see about Durant. Like, if he does win this ring, like, people aren't gonna be as impressed. People will never. And I really think his name should be never mentioned in the same sentence as LeBron James. And anytime it is, it's just complete disrespectful.
Well, but it's interesting because people thought LeBron was gonna be the one with having this career narrative, like, oh, he was chasing MJ, so he had to go play with Dwayne Wade and Bosh and Rayon, and then he went to play with Kyrie, and he traded for Kevin Love, and he's been then he traded for Anthony Davis. You think he'd be that guy. But he never did anything. I mean, listen, that's the conversation for another day.
There was never a year where you're like, oh, there's no way they lose. Actually, you know, it would have been 2011, and then we did lose. So it's like that humbled the Heat, that humbled LeBron, and it showed that clearly the team that we had wasn't unbeatable anyway.
Yeah, and so you think it'd be LeBron with that narrative, but I don't know how we look at it. Let's say Durant wins a ring this year, or maybe not. They lose to the Lakers and they win next year, or in the next 3 years, I'm sure this Nets team will get one.
Well, if they lose to LeBron and the Lakers, it's done for Durant. Like it's like that's it. LeBron will have 5 rings then. Like
what do you mean done for Durant?
I mean
though?
Done for him. Like
no,
they'll have no
done.
excuse left. No, I mean no, John. I don't know. Twitter and people you talk to, like people like Eli. He knows basketball and he like legitimately thinks Durant's like a top 10 player.
No, but we're talking like the king of the court discussion, or not even. We're talking about we're running 5s on a court. Who is just a talented basketball player?
Yeah, but that's a completely different argument than top 10 legacy.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. Durant legacy, forget top 10 or 5, Alex. He's not even in my 20 probably.
Yeah, he's probably my top 25.
You have to either like be Barkley or Malone for all those years and just carry your team and get an MVP and do that, and then unfortunately don't win, or you have to just be a guy that carries a team and win a ring, and fine, you had a Scottie Pippen or a Dwayne Wade by your side.
Yeah.
But you have to win.
And I'll say Durant's not LeBron, honestly, is like the fact that he went up against those Golden State teams and like the coming back from 3-1. That was an underdog. LeBron was an underdog in that year. In 2018, when he played 48 minutes in Game 7 and probably, I don't even know, like 45 the game before in Game 6, and then had like all those crazy games, then goes Golden State and like completely overmatched, puts up 51, 8, and 8. Like the performances like that, Whereas like LeBron, even though the odds were stacked against him, he still made a competitive game, or he still almost won, or he still did win that 2016. Like, that's what to me makes LeBron so great, is he can take, let's say a team's ceiling is whatever right here. No one can see me because there's no video, and he takes it, a whole nother foot up. So it's like LeBron would always emphasize your ceiling. Like, yeah, any great player does that, but Durant doesn't do it, in the way that I would think a top 10, 15 player
we
could
will
do.
never know because he's always playing on, Team USA or the All-Star team.
Here's what I can say. I saw it in 2016, a year that I thought, wow, look at him. Him and Russ, they're going at Golden State. They go
73-9 Warriors.
This is legit. And then they choke it away. And I'm not going to completely blame Durant, but guess what? You are the best player on the team. You did shoot like 33% in Game 6, I think it was.
Blew a 3-1 lead, yeah.
Blew a 3-1 lead. And that matters. That totally matters. And so ultimately, I don't know if that, to me, that's going to be a blemish on his career. And we'll see what's going to happen moving forward. And if he will, be worthy of all the praise that he gets.
So Alex, you touched on the Heat Twitter a little bit in the buyout market. But first, I want to talk about the Lakers and their response to this. Drummond was a guy that towards the beginning of the season we're talking about, maybe the Nets will go after him. And the Lakers end up signing him, which to me seems more like we can't let the Nets sign this dude deal. And I know you talked
disagree,
about...
But okay.
So go ahead, so what do you think the Lakers signing Drummond means? And we could talk about Austin Rivers
no
from the Bucks
doubt.
more,
It's a plus that they didn't get him, and that Drummond, I would say, is definitely a better, more valuable player than LaMarcus Aldridge. And Blake Griffin, I don't know, honestly. After seeing Blake Griffin put 17 points, he's 3 for 4 on his threes since he's been wearing a Brooklyn Nets jersey. I don't know about Blake Griffin or Drummond. However, I do think it's a very valuable pickup, for the sake in and of itself, without the fact that they're not letting the Nets get him. But I think it comes down to Marcus Gasol looked a little older than we thought he would look. Montrezl Harrell hasn't been as good as we thought he'd be.
I mean, especially defensively, he's not.
And defensively, he's not. And Andre Drummond's not a great defender. He's not a great defensive player, but he's a big body. He's going to be in the paint, and the one thing he does do is rebound the hell out of the ball. He's the NBA league leader in rebounding right now. He's done that multiple times also. So, and I think there was a tweet that I saw. Was it like Dan Devine or so someone from the Ringer was saying, I always think that guys who are just really good at rebounding, I never think that matters that much until you get into the end of a playoff game, the last 5 minutes of a playoff game, and teams are missing shots, and that's all. At that point, that's all that matters is rebounding.
But you know what? I don't know if he's gonna be on the court in the end of a game if he's not making free throws.
Hey, his free throw percentage has gone up. I actually don't know what it is, but it's not as bad as it.
I'm not saying that. Listen, I'm not saying.
And you're right.
They're not gonna go hack a Shaq on him. But tell me the Lakers lineup. What's their closing lineup? Is it really Drummond?
Look at when LeBron won in 2016. They had Tristan Thompson on the floor. And I think Drummond is going to bring a lot of the same things that Tristan Thompson brought.
Different story because Thompson was their big, right? I mean Love. Talking about offense, Love's a big as well, but offensively he was out on the perimeter a little more in the corner.
So are you saying Davis?
I'm saying Davis is their big, so I'm saying. I guess, listen, Davis spreads the floor, and he's super talented, so we can throw positions out.
Yeah, Davis can spread the floor. He can literally play like a guard if you want him to. At the same time, you're right. If it comes to that, maybe that's when you play Marcus Gasol. Maybe that's when you play Kyle Kuzma. Maybe that's when you go small ball and you just have LeBron and Davis as your bigs. I mean, the Lakers are right now. They've already been a versatile team. Yeah. Now they're an even more versatile team. So they have more options with now adding Andre Drummond. So I think it's a great ad, and I think. It's another low risk, high reward. There's not a big risk in signing him, but it could be a very.
So they're closing five then: Schroeder, KCP, LeBron, AD, and you're saying Drummond.
No, maybe it's Drummond, maybe it's Kuzma, maybe it's Caruso. It really depends.
Maybe it's THT.
Maybe it's THT. Look at this series against Miami. They ended up putting Caruso in the starting lineup. But I think that's a big ad. Another pretty big ad too. I think it's going to go under the radar, and we'll see in the playoffs. It's actually going to pay dividends for them. Is the Milwaukee Bucks signing Austin Rivers, John?
Oh yeah. Listen. I know you've been on the Bucks wave, and since the beginning of the season, I'm going to give them credit. PJ Tucker, nice role guy there. If he plays defense and can hit some corner threes, that's awesome because I think he's a huge, I forget what it is. He there was some statistic I saw. I can't, regurgitate it now, but about how he leads the league and how great he is from the corner.
Oh yeah, he's the most corner three. If you go over the last 2, 3, 4 years, something like that. He is by far the most corner threes over anyone else.
But you think about it, that's from playing with James Harden, who would, do his little one-on-one dance and he'd drive and then he'd dish it if he wasn't scoring it or going to the free throw line. Giannis is also the guy who leads the league, I think, in corner 3 assists.
Yeah.
So great move there. And we said that after the Drew Holiday trade, they gave up too much. They gave up their bench. They don't have depth anymore. Now Austin Rivers at the bench, also great fit. I mean, he was playing for the Knicks, so it was like likely that he was going to get bought out. And then I think he was traded to the Thunder? Did he? Or not? Maybe I'm missing
I think
that
you're
up.
right. He did. He got
with
bought.
the Terrence Ferguson.
He got traded to the Thunder and some 3-way trade, and he got bought out.
So-
But I think this trade is big too, because obviously it's depth, John. But what it is to me more is like insurance for guys like Dante DiVincenzo, who isn't. He's a good defensive player, not as good on offense, and Bryn Forbes, who good offensive player, can hit the 3 ball.
Yeah, his threes.
But he's not really very good on defense. Actually, definitely a below average defender. So Austin Rivers is a guy who, if those guys aren't hitting shots, if those guys are weak on defense, then you throw him in, and he's a pretty good 2-way player. You can put him next to Drew Holiday. You still have Middleton, Giannis, and Lopez or PJ Tucker. It just gives them more flexibility with lineup flexibility.
Yeah, for sure.
Which, like I just said with the Lakers, like that's a big thing in the playoffs. Is like what lineups can you throw out? How can you switch lineups? Can you go big? Can you go small?
Yeah.
So
and he'll definitely be a nice role guy. So listen, I'm not agreeing with you that the Bucks are going to make it, but PJ Tucker and Austin Rivers, definitely 2 guys I think good role guys that if Giannis is ready to put the cape on and take him there, then I think those guys definitely helped him out.
Okay, John, so before we talk about March Madness and how our brackets are doing, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the NBA officiating, some things that we've been seeing over the past few weeks, especially relative to now watching all the college basketball that's been going on. So, John, let me just give you the mic.
So it is interesting because, for example, our roommate Alex, who Jason puts up with a lot of watching basketball, living with the two of us as huge, basketball fans. We've been watching a lot of college basketball. And, he's kind of gauging as comparing it to the beginning of the year when we were in the NBA bubble and all the, NBA we would watch. And he's like, I think the referees are better in college. Like, they're not, they're letting the guys play a little more. There's also these college guys don't complain as much. They're not getting paid millions of dollars. They don't have their own sneakers and all the other endorsement deals. It is, and that's where you see, there's a different game. There's certain different rules.
They're not whining about the
there's certain different rules, like the 3-point line shorter in college, and, the halves are different versus quarters. But that's definitely an aspect of it that's different. That's why a lot of people, I think, favor college basketball. There's not as much, just big faces and, I would say, stars that just carry the whole weight of the league on them. It's more of a team sport, you could say. And that's something I remember some of our basketball coaches saying when we were, in high school. For example, our freshman year coach in high school on JV, he was like, "Oh, don't watch the NBA guys. Make sure you're go watch Syracuse, how they run their zone defense. Go watch UNC and Kentucky and the system is different. So it's different there." So I'm just comparing it out to for example, the NBA officiating. And this is something that happened last week. Dwight Howard was ejected twice. First the Lakers and then the Clippers. 2 nights in LA. And the Clippers won. I can't speak as much for. He just looked like he was chirping the refs, and he got 2 quick technicals. And listen, I'm not gonna advocate for Dwight Howard right here because yes, we don't know what he said to the refs, so yes, he's an idiot. But the Lakers one, I will say, is more so it's bogus because if you watch the play, it was him, there's a timeout or a dead ball, whatever. They're walking to the benches during the timeout, and he bumps into Montrezl Harrell, brushes into him. And it was he definitely was intentionally doing it, but that's what got him ejected. Him bumping into Montrezl. So yes, he's an idiot, and the technical he got previously lined him up to get a double to get that second tech and then to get ejected. But still, at the same time, Kendrick Perkins was up there on First Take. I guess when the day after this happened, saying, "Come on, you want to see these guys compete. Let them go at it. It's good if they're getting a little chippy. It's the end of a game. Joel Embiid is out. Dwight Howard's was the starting center for the Sixers. It's a good game. If someone bumps into another player and it's not gonna injure somebody or a fight's not about to break out, let him play, let him go." So I think that's definitely something interesting to compare now that we're watching college basketball as well. And like I said, the observation from my roommate Jason, who only really watches basketball with us, so he's like, "Oh, it looks like the college refs are a little bit better." So yeah, that's a quick officiating
definitely
corner.
He's a good person to look at because he's not someone who loves basketball or watches a ton of basketball. But when he's seeing that and he says it, and I was like, "Oh, why do you think that?" And it's something that I've definitely noticed as well. And it's just a difference between, like you said, the NBA is a star players league. In college, it's more about the schools
and the teams and the coaches of the stars.
Yeah, the coaches, exactly. So
the system.
So that's definitely, it's one reason why I just love the college game, and it's been, thank God we have it this year. We didn't have March Madness last year.
Yeah, it's back. It's so good to be watching these
That's
games.
actually a good segue, John, we're just going to kind of talk about how our brackets are doing. We weren't able to kind of have a full episode previewing March Madness, but I think it's been a great year. We've had a lot of fun. We've had a lot of double-digit seeds ending up, in the round of 32 and in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Right now, it looks like not Oklahoma State. The team that beat Oklahoma State, which was Oregon State, they have a shot to make the Final Four.
They're the sleeper right now. There's a little Cinderella.
So, John, how's your bracket currently
So my
doing?
bracket, I really liked how. So this is my strategy with brackets. I'm not in like middle school anymore when I used to make my bracket, and then on the first day when it was busted, I would be like up in arms about it. I'm over that. I know like every year there's like I'm not gonna ever have a near perfect bracket, but I like to be strategic with my picks. Mm-hmm. So for example, in our little pool, I think it's about 15, 20 people that are in our little pool. Some of our Boston College,
10, honestly.
Yeah, some of our Boston. It's not that many. Some of our Boston College friends, but everyone picked Illinois and Gonzaga. And our roommate Jason, he threw in Iowa. That was one different pick. But me and one other person were the only people that picked Michigan. So I think that's a great value pick because my bracket, my first 2 rounds could have been garbage. But if Michigan wins the title, I'm going to have enough points to like win the bracket or at least get second place.
Because everyone else has Gonzaga.
Exactly. So right now I'm riding with Michigan. But funny story about that. Yesterday I had like, $6 left in my positive balance on my book. And I was like, you know what? I'm not about to get Venmo'd, $6 for my bookie. So I had to throw my $6 on a 4-leg parlay of all the games yesterday. I took UCLA, who ended up winning.
Overtime win.
Yeah, overtime winning and upsetting Alabama. USC, I want to say USC was a slight favorite over Oregon.
Over Oregon.
Gonzaga, huge favorite over Creighton. And to go against my bracket, I was like, you know what? If I pick Michigan and they lose, it's a double loss. My bracket loses, and then my parlay loses. So I picked FSU. So I hit 3 out of 4 legs, so I made 0 this week. But yeah, that's my funny story.
Those March Madness parlays are super, super tricky, John.
Impossible. Tricky. But shout out our friend Max Barnes, who did hit a long shot.
One, I think, in the round of 32, and it was like Syracuse, Oral Roberts, and like Arkansas, I think. And it was those 3-way, and I think none of those teams, because Arkansas was playing Texas Tech, and I think Texas Tech might have been favored that game, but 3 underdogs, and he hit. It was 10
to win $220.
Something crazy. Crazy like that.
So those March Madness, those are the stories you hear. Know. 10 to win $200 that like keep you betting. So and for all our gambling degenerates out there.
Going to my bracket, John, I picked 3 1 seeds to make the Final Four: Gonzaga, Michigan, and Baylor. So luckily, the 3 that are still in, thankfully, hopefully they can make it. They're 1 game away each of them. I think they can do it.
Yeah.
And that 4th team, I'm an NBA fan, so I had to pick the number 1 NBA prospect, Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, I did the same.
Oklahoma State. I thought they would make the Final Four. They lost to a team that's actually still in the Elite 8 right now. So number 12 Oregon State. So that's looking good.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the reason I did that this year is, like, honestly, like, being a year out of it, I had, like, a little bit, I had to, like, go and refresh my brain about March Madness. And one of the years that I had the most success in my bracket that I actually won our pool was the year that Duke won it all. And I had
2015.
I had 3 1 seeds in, and I had Duke, undefeated Kentucky, and then Wisconsin, who they had Frank the Tanker. They were very good that year.
Yeah.
And I had those 3 teams in, and like those 3 teams made. And so actually, like, looking historically, 1 seeds win like more often than not. I think it's like 60% of all the wins is 1 seeds. But then also, just you look at like the teams that make it to the Elite 8 and to the Final Four. Usually, it's kind of like what we see now. Right now, we have 3 1 seeds. We have a 2 seed and a 3 seed. We have 1 6 seed, and then an 11 seed and a 12 seed.
Yeah.
So it's like
that sounds about right.
That's
usually what it is.
And that's a good March Madness year too. We got Oregon State, random school. Their mascots, the Beavers. They're fun. They also, they beat Loyola Chicago, which is another team like that.
Yeah.
And then you have UCLA, who incredible overtime win. I cannot believe they won. Like right at the end
electric,
there, they were missing free throws. Alabama was missing free throws.
Alabama hits the
comes
3
and hits that incredible
buzzer beating 3 at the end of regulation.
And honestly, John, a point like that in the game is like sometimes a momentum swing.
Well, it reminds me of Ray Allen's shot. Like he hit that, and at that point, like the Heat were like, we're not losing.
Yeah, we're not losing.
And so the Spurs were like, shoot. The Spurs were like, we just threw it away.
And Alabama, at one point, I didn't see the end of the game what their final free throw percentage was, but they at one point, towards the very end, they were like 11 for 25. John.
Yeah, they were shooting horrible.
I mean, that's 14 points on the board. That's completely different. Whereas UCLA was like 9 for 12. So it's like you want to, you end up losing by like 10 points in overtime. That's the difference right there. Is those free throws. So
yeah, like
make your free throws, people.
Yeah, and like you asked, I have Gonzaga and Michigan in my Final Four. I don't have the other side. All my teams are out. My only teams still in right now are Gonzaga and Michigan. Well, so my points left on the board are Gonzaga and Michigan winning their Elite Eight games, which would be tomorrow, right?
Yeah,
tomorrow, because tonight's the games from Saturday.
Yeah.
So tomorrow we'll see if I get those points, and then I need Michigan to beat Gonzaga, and then Michigan to win it all. Right now, Alex, I'm gonna stick with head coach of Michigan, Juwan Howard, former Miami Heat player.
That's right.
Are you sticking with your pick of Gonzaga?
Yeah. Well, I think, honestly, John, right now, if I had to look at who the best two teams are, I honestly wish that though they were on opposite sides of the bracket so they could meet in the Final Four. I think Michigan and Gonzaga meet not in the Final Four. They are going to be in the Final Four. In the championship. And something that I always say about like March Madness, like the team that wins it usually blows out the first two rounds, and both these teams have had three straight blowout wins.
But I will also, say there's also teams like Loyola Chicago that make it to the Final Four when they had a close first round.
Oh, totally.
Or even a team that won it, UConn with Shabazz Napier, and was that 2013, I want to say.
Yeah.
Shabazz Napier led them there, and they had a close game in the first round.
Yeah.
Close game versus
that's obviously anomaly. They're the only 7 seed to ever win.
You never know, Alex. I'm saying you never know. Maybe these 1 seeds get knocked off in the Elite Eight, and maybe we're seeing. I don't have my bracket
UCLA, man. UCLA, they were in the first 4. So if they make it, that would be pretty insane.
So you can see UCLA get to the first 4, and so who else is there? So if UCLA, who would they face?
They're facing Michigan, I think.
Yeah. So they would have to. So if they take out Michigan.
No, they're not facing Michigan. Wait, are they?
They are. They're playing them. They're playing them tomorrow night. So then they go up against the winner of Gonzaga USC.
Yeah.
Both those 2 great games right there. And then
I don't know, man. I thought FSU Michigan would be a great game too, and that kind of disappointed. Michigan.
But another thing I'm saying is like Houston. Like I don't know. I haven't watched really much Houston at all. They blew out their first game. They had a close one with Rutgers. Then they blew out Syracuse for like 17-point win against Syracuse. Who knows? Maybe Oregon State. They really are the Cinderella this year, and they make it all the way to the Final Four. And then we see what happens.
I want either UCLA or Oregon State to make it. That's gonna be the most fun.
Yeah,
probably Oregon State actually, because they're less of a UCLA's still kind of a big name. But
yeah.
Anyway. All right, John. Before we finish this episode, I really wanted to make sure that we spoke about the Dolphins Blockbuster deal, in which we took the number 3 overall pick in the NFL draft for this year, which is only less than a month away now. I'm really excited for it. Which was a pick that we got from when we traded Laramie Tunsil to the Houston Texans. So the Houston Texans pick, we have that pick. What do? We traded down, which I think we anticipated this would happen as the top. This might make history. 4 of the top 5 players picked in this draft, are probably going to be quarterbacks.
Yeah, potentially. It's looking that way.
Excellent quarterbacks, and it's looking like the teams at the top now, the 49ers, although they've said they don't want a quarterback, I think they might take one, but it's, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields. If we're at the 3rd pick, we have Tua, and if we're committed to Tua, which this trade clearly says we're committed to Tua, then we would want one of the players that would be lower in the draft. So what do? We traded from the number 3 pick down to number 12, and we also got 2 future first round picks and a future 3rd round pick. What do we do immediately after? And honestly, like this is kind of what confused me. Like these are 2 separate trades, but if you look at it, it was almost like a 3-way trade.
Well, I think what happened was I heard that the Eagles were talking with Miami about that number 3 pick, and they ended up not being able to pull the trigger. So Miami then went to San Francisco instead, made that trade. And then clearly we had some intentions there of talking back with the Eagles and moving. So we traded from 3 down to 12, then from 12 back up to 6.
And so if you look at all right, you just take both those trades, combine them. What happened with Miami? Essentially, how I see it is at number 3, we didn't want one of the quarterbacks. Those quarterbacks are going to go up as high as 2, 3, and 4. Those picks, we didn't want any of those guys.
So number 3 pick, we were losing. Number
value 3 pick, essentially you're losing value on it because we were probably. I'm assuming we're going to take one of these guys. Either Devontae Smith, which it seems like he might slip. I don't know if we'll take him at. I don't think we'll take him at number 6. Jamar Chase, LSU receiver. That makes a lot of sense. Jalen Waddle, another receiver, or Kyle Pitts, who's a tight end. And there's actually one other guy, Penei Sewell, who's I believe he's like an offensive tackle. But he's the guy he's the top of a lot of big boards. People say he's like top 2 prospect in this draft after Trevor Lawrence. So either those picks, any of those guys that I think we would want. It made more sense for us to move down. So what we did essentially is we got an extra future first round pick and a future 3rd round pick just to move down to the number six pick, and essentially take the same guy that we probably would have taken
at
anyway.
3. Exactly. So and perfect finessing there in the draft order.
What's gonna happen is the first 4 quarterbacks are gonna get drafted. I think this is just based on me looking at mock drafts. Not that I know anything about the NFL draft or anything.
Yeah.
And then at that 5th pick is the Bengals. So they're either gonna get the offensive tackle Sewell or Jamar Chase, John, who played at LSU with Joe Burrow.
Right.
So like it's either you're getting a guy to protect Joe Burrow or getting like one of Joe Burrow's former weapons who they're probably boys. I think like they're best friends.
I'm sure, yeah, they were buddies playing together. But for Miami too, it was great to have this trade coming like the day after the Heat trade. Just got Oladipo and Bezjalink, whatever, how do you ever say his name? And Ariza, of course, and all the other guys. But, yeah, so just back-to-back days for Miami teams having great trades made. And hopefully this draft turns out well for us. We're riding with Tua. Fitzmagic is no longer with us. We will miss him. He was definitely a player I'll never forget watching here. And among the his best moments was his Oakland play with just someone grabbed his face mask and was like pulling his helmet, and he still somehow heaves up the Hail Mary pass, which ended up lining us up to get a field goal to win the game.
And I think last year you saw the Dolphins' potential with how great our defense was. We had an elite defense last year. The offense was not as good, and that's why we had Tua in. Sometimes we take him out, put Fitzpatrick in, and Tua was he was getting reps and he was just getting his legs under him. It was good that he was able to stay healthy throughout the season. And this year, I think, is like, all right, Tua's going to have to take a big step up, which is very possible. You've seen it with a lot of second-year quarterbacks, going after their first year. They kind of start half the season, and they come in their second year, and boom. And so I think why the biggest thing for us right now is getting more weapons and getting him more protection. So our defense is going to be good. If we can get a guy like Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle or Kyle Pitts, that's going to be great for Tua. Another guy you can throw to after we have already Devontae Parker, who's really good. And we just signed Will Fuller, too, who I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, hopefully he stays healthy.
This could be a big year for the Dolphins. I
rides on Tua. It rides on Tua's shoulders right now.
Very high hopes from. Well, it does, but not entirely, because look how good we were last year with just our defense. So if
you're underselling what Fitzmagic was for us. Having him, and I know Coach Flores called him after that Oakland game, Tua was playing awful that Oakland game.
Yeah.
And we throw in Fitzmagic at the end, and we were actually, I don't know if you remember, we were on a plane. There was an Oakland Raiders fan behind us, and he's like, "Oh, good game, guys!" After they won, he was being nice because we figured they won, and the guy was watching on his phone. He turned it off, and then we're like, wait, what happened? Miami got the ball back. We're about to score. We're in field goal range now. What? We turned it back on. We ended up that was a win we did not expect to have. So Fitzmagic came through in moments like that throughout the season and won it for us. And Tua, of course, he got hot. It was him. He was 5-0 or at one point 6-1. He started very hot. But think about the LA Rams win. The LA Rams one is that first Tua win I think of. That was our defense. Our defense had 3 touchdowns.
That's my point. So if our defense can be, let's say Tua doesn't take a big step up from what he was last year, which I'm not anticipating, but let's say he doesn't, then we still have a great defense that they're gonna win us games like the game that they won versus the Rams. So
I hope he just is a safe QB play makes the right I hope Flores makes it easy for him and he doesn't have to do anything crazy.
I think he will.
He doesn't need to be an MVP. You need to ride. We're getting good receivers. Hopefully the draft, even another great option comes out of that. And of course, like you said, our defense can carry the load as well.
And something I want to emphasize too is Tua came in his rookie year and he had basically not played for over a year. I think the first time he started was the first time he had played football in over a year because of the injury that he had at Alabama. Mm-hmm. So that I think that this year, like I said, I have very high hopes and it could be a breakout year for him. So great time to be a Miami sports fan.
Even though the Heat, like we said, on a 6-game losing streak, Oladipo's going to come in. Buller's going to come back.
We had a big game versus the Knicks, and Oladipo's not playing. I hope Goran Dragic plays. I don't know if he's playing, but anyway. All right, so hopefully we will be coming back later this week with another episode. See if there's any other NBA moves that have happened. Maybe the Heat finally pick someone up, steal Boogie Cousins or something.
Yeah, we'll see.
Anyway,
we need a big man.
Yeah, so it's been a good one. Thank you for listening. Peace out.
Go Heat.